the inaugural edition of the Gold, Guts, and Guns Hour on YouTube. My name's Tom Luongo, and I'm going to wait for a couple of people to show up for my Periscope. I've been doing this for a long time on Periscope, and hopefully we will be able to transition that audience over here and have a good old talk about geopolitics, cryptocurrencies, gold, silver, all the fun stuff. All right. There's volume is, oh shit, of course it's low. So, because I don't have my microphone, how's that? Is that better? Again, I am such a novice at this. How are we doing now? Is that good? Awesome. It should sound really good. I finally figured out why it's echoing. Shouldn't be echoing. I should have this set up properly. I should actually finally have this set up properly. I was playing with it this afternoon to make sure that it sounded good. All right. Is there actually any depth in my voice? Does it actually feel like it's coming through a professional microphone? It's actually kind of important. Turn PC mic off. My PC mic is off. That's the problem. Everything else is off. The only thing that's on is the snowball. And the capture device is only the only capture device I've got running is this one. Let's make sure that this is right. Hold on for just a second. No, it's not good. I want it to be actually really good. Ding. Use custom audio device, blah. That's the only thing that's running. I know that we had echo the other night when we were on, and I know why, when we were on, what do you call it, on Gab TV, but I was playing with this afternoon to make sure that it wasn't terrible. All right. Well, yeah, the echo, I can't do away with all the echo because the room itself isn't set up properly. Because I've got, bare blank walls and 10-foot ceilings, which you guys can't see. So you're not going to get away with all of it. But, all right, well, we'll do what we can. That's what I've got. And then when I listen to this, I'll play it back later and I'll see what it sounds like. I'm certainly not going to turn my speakers on. All right, guys. So let's get right to it. So what we normally do, I don't know if any of you are not my normal Periscope crowd, but it'd be cool if you were. We're going to talk about let's talk about what we were talking about on Periscope a couple of seconds ago was Trump's why Trump didn't veto the sanctions bill, and I think that from we talked about it before, and we'll talk about it again. That the truth is that he really didn't have a choice. I would have liked him to have done so, and I've said this before. I also want him to honestly go on more of an attack, and it looks like he's beginning to go on a bit of an attack. I gotta move the chat over here. I don't need to be looking at my fucking face. All right, so, all right, there we go. I would have liked him to have been a lot more aggressive, certainly from the outset, and he hasn't been. And I'll get my legs under me in a second, guys. I'm just kind of still dealing with the new interface. It's a lot easier when you're just staring at your phone. I'm trying not to get distracted by everything that's going on here. So just give me a second to get my bearings here. Bear with, as it were. So, and we were arguing with Sterling about McMaster and Iran and the nuclear deal and everything else, and I don't know. I would like to see him do something with McMaster that isn't, because he's the guy is as deep state as it comes. He's as big of a problem as it could possibly be, I just, he needs to go. If he's firing people like he's supposed to be firing people, if he's like we've heard, if he's arguing with Trump about literally every large issue, he doesn't need to be there if that's the case. Trump has has for the most part has a pretty solid idea about what he wants to do, and he's being pushed and pulled by so many people in different directions. It's creating a mess, and it needs to go away. It needs to end, and I think McMaster is the key to it. And I know that I heard that he was recommended to Trump by John McCain. Obviously, it was a poison pill for the administration. So, yeah, he's firing all the people that Trump hired, and that's that's literally the problem here. Is that make sure that this thing's actually been tweeted out. Also, while we're talking about this, so all right, well that's cool, great, it has been tweeted out. All right, so it's insane that we're still dealing with this kind of stuff. Yeah, well, Flynn also has a huge blind spot when it comes to Iran as well, and I think that's part of the real issue here, is that you've got a bunch of people within the Trump administration and Trump himself that have a real blind spot when it comes to Iran, and because of that, it's setting policy. And I know that Kissinger has been in his ear over and over and over again. And Kissinger came out the other day and made a statement. I read it on one of the either the Durin or one of the other Russian sites that he was Russian news sites that because that's the only place you can actually get any information, that he was adamant about Trump having to be strong on trying to break up the alliance between Russia, China, and Iran, and then now everybody else. And if we don't get and there's no deeper game being played here. It's not like Kissinger's playing realpolitik and realizing that Trump really should be coming up with a rapprochement plan for Russia, and that Russia should be in our future. It's not. It's not what's going on. It's absolutely not what's going on, and that's the problem. So, death by 1,000 brutes. I'm beginning to get worried that we're going to expand again in Afghanistan. I think that Trump is unconvinced about pulling out, but he's unconvinced about adding new troops, and he needs a good reason to do one of two things. Now, again, the other thing that's ticking me off here, and seriously ticking me off, is that he's unhappy about the sanctions bill, correct? His signing statement made it abundantly clear that he thought this thing's unconstitutional. His signing statement was obviously written by his lawyers. It's obviously setting up that he's going to create some kind of constitutional challenge to it. He should, in every way, manner, shape, or form. He absolutely should. But he has an opportunity from a policy perspective. He has an opportunity to make real moves to tell the Russians that he's not angry with them. And he's not doing it. And Afghanistan is actually the big one. And this is where I think that from a foreign policy perspective, we're still, we're still savvier about this stuff than he is. And his own scripts that are in his head, or whatever you want to call it, his own inherent biases are the things that are keeping him from knowing what to do. I just don't buy that shit. I really don't. That there's all this discussion back channel and everything else, and where Lavrov and Tillerson are creating have created all the things that they created all the infrastructure to once Trump gets control of everything's going to be better. Bullshit. I just don't buy that. I just don't, and I never have, and I never will until I actually see something on the ground that matters. The Russians. The gang of six that are getting together in Astana this week to update on what's happening in the Syrian peace process, right?
the areas of Syria that they've got control over now, those same countries are also been leading a charge for the last 9 months for Pakistan to take the lead to create a rapprochement, to cut a deal with the Kabul government in order to have the three of them, to have the Kabul government, Pakistan, and it just means a certain number of chats per second, by the way. But those things, that those three parties need to come up with a solution to stabilizing Afghanistan, and the key to it is the Taliban, which we've been fighting for 15 years. And so now the question is, if Trump truly wants to make, Putin happy on some front, then he'd win so many points pulling us out of Afghanistan. All he has to do is make the point. We were pulling out of Afghanistan because it has been a failure. It's cost us trillions of dollars. We have nothing to show for it. The amount of opium that's coming out of the country has gone through the roof. Which would be a complete dig at the friggin' CIA. Okay, all of this stuff would be fantastic. And he has all the political cover in the world to do so, piss the deep state off at the same time, and shore up his base. And score points with the Russians. And do so in such a way that it doesn't look like he's scoring points with the Russians, because only people like us have any clues to what's going on with Russia at that point. And the only people who would complain about it are Bill Kristol, George Friedman, and the rest of the neocons. Max Boot and all those people, and they're getting marginalized. Their time is nearly up. You can see it. This is why they're pressing so hard. They have to, Halsey and I were talking about it the other night. He has to. I'm hoping he will do that, but the noise that I'm getting out of the White House is that we're going to put another 4,000 troops in. And I'm hearing Bannon wants us out of Afghanistan. This is why McMaster needs to go. Afghanistan is the key here. If Trump would just get rid of McMaster and do so in such a way that they won't assassinate him for doing so. And that's the problem. I really fundamentally kind of feel that, there may be, that may be the real worry here. So, I don't know, people. I just don't know. It just seems to me like, McMaster really is the key to getting this to improve. And it would be a real big shift. It would make me feel a lot better, because I would know that he's working within the constraints that he's been given. I don't know about that, Green Penguin. I don't know if there have been any videos of our allies beheading boys in Afghanistan. I don't know. Because that would be great, right? It would be really easy. But Trump's got so many other arguments, and it's the argument that he's made to his national security staff and to his generals. He said, "Look, you're giving me arguments to stay in, and they're not good enough. And if you don't, so go back to the drawing board and come up with something else." Maybe he's giving them one more chance to give him a plan that's convincing before he says, "Okay, no, forget this, we're pulling out." And, the hue and cry in Washington and in the media will be, "Oh my God, we're going to have chaos if we leave," and yada, yada, yada. There's already chaos. And to be honest with you, the Taliban has control of 90% of the country anyway. And so we're just wasting money at this point. It's not like we have any real control in the country. We don't. And we're not going to. And it's not a matter of this is Vietnam where we didn't go over there to win or any of that bullshit. This has been, it's much deeper than that. It's a bigger game than that. And, but Trump doesn't want to give China an inch, right? So this is the other problem. So he sees this, he rightly sees this as a way for that China is going to continue to grow in stature and power, which, he's fundamentally opposed to, without, a complete renegotiation of the way we do business with China. One man's waste is another man's job creator. Yeah. So, Paul Krugman never met a broken window he didn't like, right? Yeah. I saw a meme the other day. It just made me howl. It was a picture of Krugman that said, "Economic collapse on the horizon. Break more windows." And I just, it's freaking awesome, right? So I don't know. So from that perspective, I would really like to. That's what I really want to see. That's a good idea. If you promote McMaster to 4-star and then say, okay, look, none of you have given me a good plan to getting out. You go over there and coordinate the withdrawal. That would be fantastic. That would be all sorts of great. So I'm not sure that that's what's going to happen, but it would be cool, right? Yeah, but the thing about it is that, we're getting practice, but we're not getting the kind of practice that we actually need. Because the truth of the matter is that we're not fighting people. Hey, Sterling. Okay, cool. So that's Sterling. Do you want me to still call you Sterling or Voodoo? Take a pick. Because I'll let you, because, I'm good either way. Glad you made it. So what we're not, our troops per se aren't getting, I'm reading. So Cherry thinks that Trump is working through a bit of a Jenga game. Got to be careful when and what pieces to pull out. An astute point. Is just an excuse by the MIC to defend its budget. That's also another point. But I think it's a deeper game than that. It's very much Afghanistan has always been the linchpin to the Brzezinski doctrine, Brzezinski-Wolfowitz doctrine of Central Asian chaos. Because if everything we've ever done has been in that region has always been to sow chaos such that no one power can dominate. And if no one power can dominate, then the region stays fighting amongst itself and poor, which is exactly the way we want it. It's a very colonial attitude. Between the Brits and the United States, we've been at war in Afghanistan, and the Russians, we've been at war in Afghanistan for over 150 years. And nothing seems to change, right? So, I don't know. I would like to see that improve, because with the ouster of, nobody wins in Afghanistan. It's a graveyard. It's the graveyard of empires, and it's the graveyard of many an empire. And so with the ouster of, what I was about to say is the ouster of Sharif in Pakistan sets some things in motion that create some turmoil, right? But it looks like in the short term, nothing's going to change politically. But what happened says very clearly is that the military is still in charge, and they're just not willing. They're not doing it overtly by overthrowing the government and taking over for a little while, because that doesn't sit well with the people. So now they're using soft pressure through the constitutional court to get what they want out of the civilian government. So there's still a lot going on in Pakistan that needs to be resolved. That said, it doesn't look like any of the civilian government leadership, either within Sharif's party, the PNL-M, or his main political rivals, are significantly either U.S. positive or Saudi positive. I mean, really, Sharif is the most Saudi positive of the bunch, and the part of the reason why it's thought that he was pushed out of power was that the Saudis asked the Pakistani military to do it because he refused to back them in Yemen, he refused to back them in Qatar, over Qatar and everything else. And so that's been part of the issue here, because Pakistan's always enjoyed good relations with Saudi Arabia up until very recently. So it looks like this is a bit of pressure from bin Salman on the back end to try and throw things open. Also, don't forget that there is a China element to all of Saudi Arabian politics, and then therefore American politics, and that there's American interest here in every way, because China is a major buyer of Saudi oil. The Saudis are no longer the Chinese biggest client, but they're their second biggest client, right? Russia is now the biggest supplier of oil and gas to China. That's only going to get worse over time. Russia is only going to get a bigger portion of that market share. But the Chinese still import a lot of oil from the Saudis, and they import a lot of gas. China has a lot of oil, but it's mostly shale, and it's mostly low-quality shale oil, and it's like they have a lot of coal, but it's a lot of low-energy bituminous coal. Their bituminous coal, from what I understand, is actually better in a coal-to-liquids scenario than it is as actually burning it for fuel. And China's got some very interesting, I've seen some very interesting technology come out of, technological notes come out of Inner Mongolia, for example, which is a Western Chinese province, right? So, it borders Mongolia, but it's that Inner Mongolia is a Chinese province, or really it's an autonomous region within China, right? It's again not analogous to our states, which are all co-equal. Where Xinhua oil company, I can't remember we're going to go back 3 or 4 years now, but they've got some very interesting coal to diesel technology that they've been running a pilot plant on for a while now, and because China's got a crap ton of bituminous coal, and they've got so much of it, it's not funny, hundreds of years worth of supply, and they can get it, and they can create it in small scale at a pretty decent price per barrel, something like $30 to $40 a barrel. So, but with the crash in oil prices, it's not really a great technology at this point to spin up. But if oil does ever get back to $70, $80 a barrel, well, then that can get spun up. But but going back to the Saudis, remember the petrodollar. All of this is still about the petrodollar. The petrodollar is not done yet, right? The death of the petrodollar is coming. It's happening. It's on its way. It's being killed by a death of 1,000 cuts. It's not like all of a sudden one day nobody's going to trade oil in dollars. But every day, a couple 100,000 more barrels don't trade in dollars. And this is where the hammer comes down for the Saudis. If they can't get the price of oil back above $50, $60 a barrel, consistently above $60 a barrel, then the Saudis are still in trouble from a primary budget perspective. But if they can't get it back above $60, $65 a barrel, forget it. They're in serious financial trouble long term, and they will eventually have to abandon the dollar reserve standard. They will eventually have to stop taking keep marketing SUVs, exactly. But I mean, SUV sales in the United States don't need any help, James. Let's not kid ourselves, okay? Go look at car sales, and a lot of the reason why we're seeing a major slowdown in U.S. car sales, aside from the fact that we're at the cycle high, and it's the cycle high, we've hit it, and we're now on the downside of the cycle. But there's also, if you look at, I follow Ford pretty closely because I had it in my portfolio for a while, and you can see that Ford's average selling price, their ASPs are, even though their volume is dropping off, their ASPs continue to rise because they're selling more Edges, more Escapes, and more Ford F-150s than they are Fiestas and Focuses and Fusions, which are not. They're not even. None of those are really terribly compelling or competitive cars anyway, and and Ford rightly understands where their bread and butter is, and they're moving, they're moving as much up market as they possibly can, and bringing back Lincoln, which is doing very, very well. And I mean, I can talk about Ford for half an hour if you guys want me to. It's not really, why I know why you're here. So, I actually like Fords. The way I like Fords today. I wouldn't have bought one 10 years ago, but I keep going back and forth as to whether I'll buy one. And I keep not buying one. I keep buying Nissans. So because I don't give a shit about gas mileage. So because I love that 4-cylinder 6 in my wife's Xterra. Let's just tell you, it may be that engine may be a little rough, but by God, does it pull? That's a nice big throaty V6. Lots of low end torque. Good engine. Bulletproof. Billions of them. Ubiquitous, as we like to say, ubiquitous through shadow. So, at some point, the Saudis are going to have to abandon the dollar, or at least start accepting a basket of currencies for their oil. And, China at some point will have the ability to diplomatically put the hammer down on them about this. And, it's part of the reason why the Saudis are angry with Qatar. It's part of the reason why we're both on the fence about, we have a very complicated relationship with Qatar, right? And speaking of that situation, again, it's so hard to keep handicapping all this stuff, but I saw something last week where the Saudis, or the Gang of Four, for lack of a better term, that are sanctioned or cut off diplomatic relations with Qatar, withdrew the milder version of their ultimatum and are now pressing down harder on Qatar. Now, I've got to wonder who's forcing that issue, because either bin Salman got the go-ahead from the U.S. to do this, because remember, he was in trouble with the U.S. for doing this in the first place, and then so then he backed off after Tillerson showed up, and they tried the carrot and stick thing, and that still didn't work. Hillary had Gaddafi killed for that reason. We invaded Saddam Hussein. We invaded Iran for the same reason. It's part of the reason why we're going after Russia so hard. We are trying to crush the Russian government for accepting anything other than dollars for their oil and their gas. And the Russians are just saying, look, we don't care. We are continuing to take steps to remove ourselves from the dollar reserve standard system. We will continue to do everything that is in our best interest. So that's just what's going on. And it's going to continue, and we're going to continue to push on this with as much weight as we can until we no longer can push on them at all. You'll notice that the sanctions bill went after the Russians hard to try and keep them from building pipelines. Those pipelines will get built. Part of the thing that with the Nord Stream pipeline, and both it and Turkstream are the problem, is that there are only certain companies in the world that are adept at dropping pipes underwater at those depths. Most of those companies are European or American. The Russians don't have a company that actually does that. Gazprom doesn't do it. They subcontract that. And I think it was either BASF or I think it's either BASF or I'm not sure who the subcontractor would be, but they're now seriously not sure whether they're going to actually, lay the pipes or not. I mean, the EU went out of their way to sanction Siemens for selling turbines to a Russian company, who then turned around and sold it to a third party, who then installed those turbines apparently after reconfiguring them in some way and sending them over to Crimea, which was against the sanctions. And so this is telling me that the EU is going to roll over before they even play dead. I mean, it's insane. the Europeans can't afford to buy U.S. natural gas, LNG, for 3 times the cost of Russian piped LNG. It's Russian piped gas. It's not going to happen. All those import terminals in the import terminals in Lithuania and Poland are both running at really low capacity. Okay, they're not even anywhere close to full. They never will be. They never have been and never will be. All this buying, LNG from the Americans, it's all virtue signaling. It's all bullshit. What this is about is we want the gas to continue to transit through Ukraine in order to prop up the Poroshenko, Nazi government. That's an overstatement, but the Poroshenko government in Ukraine, because we want to be able to put troops on the border of Russia. Because honestly, no, I don't think that was Putin. I really don't. Putin doesn't. I don't think Putin operates that way. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, honestly. But no, I think that Putin is going to retaliate in other ways that will be targeted and mean. They will be effective. Whatever Putin does next will be very effective. And he's done it before. No one thought for a second that putting counter sanctions on the European Union dairy imports or dairy exports to Russia would be a big deal, and it turned out to be an immense deal. So I think you'll continue. What I think you'll see is the development. What's going to happen over the course of the next 3 to 4 years now that we've made it clear that we're not going to have normalized financial relations with Russia. It's going to be even harder for Americans to buy, to invest in Russia or anything else. What that's going to do is unleash a whole lot of ingenuity and a whole lot of entrepreneurial opportunities for Russians in Russia. They have all this technology, guys. This is a country that has a space program. This is a country that makes the best rockets in the world. As a matter of fact, we don't have a space program without Russian rockets. They have the miniaturization technology necessary to make nuclear weapons. Lots of them. They arguably make the most advanced military hardware in the world. That all takes computers. It takes software engineers. It takes all of this stuff. It's not like these people are a bunch of backward drunks that all they do is work oil wells and then go home and drink vodka and fall asleep. That's not Russia. It's not rational. It's not a rational way of looking at them. True, their exports are mostly first-level commodities. Right, unless you invest with Bitcoin under the radar. Yeah, I know. I'm not arguing that the gap's not going to get closed. Of course it's going to get closed. And we're supporting SpaceX to do that because it's always been the plan to sanction Russia as they pull out of the dollar reserve standard. So diverting money to the ultimate crony capitalist Elon Musk to build new rockets makes sense. But my point is that all that technology, which is currently going for basically military and governmental use, this is the same thing that happened during the 1950s. That this is the argument that we made about all the investment that we made into the military and space program in the 1950s. Now think about what happens when all of that gets unleashed by a nascent expansion of the Russian economy. I have an article out on Seeking Alpha today, which basically says the sanctions are going to force the Bank of Russia's hand. It's either going to force Navalny to cut rates, or it's going to force Putin to fire her and get somebody in there who will cut rates, because they need to cut rates and start allowing the recovery to really take hold. Because we're into the portion of the year, because the Russian economy is incredibly cyclic. We're into the portion of the year where there's going to be a lot of natural inflation that's just kind of built into the way the spending patterns are. And and you know, inflation's crashing, right? It just dropped to 3.9% annualized in July. You know, they have another print below 4%, and she doesn't cut rates by at least 50 basis points. She's going to find herself in the gulag. She's not careful, and she should be, because at that point, then she's been outed as still doing the IMF's bidding. But I don't think that that's the case. I think that Nabiullina and Medvedev both, who are very controversial figures in Russian politics, because we're not sure where their loyalties actually lie. I think they've been pushed in the last 18 months or so away from this, you know, relationship with the West at all costs kind of thing. And I think that they're that's what it feels like to me. Medvedev's public statement about the sanctions bill was one of the most scathing attacks on a foreign leader I've ever read in my life. It was brutal. It was brutal. It felt like I was reading the op-ed page of the Huffington Post writing about Trump. It was vicious. And it was also correct. And so for me, that's telling me that Medvedev, you know, he's made his choice about where his loyalties lie, and which is great, right? As far as I'm concerned, that's fantastic. So, so from that, like I said, that for me, that's all. It's all good. So, but I don't know. All right, let's see what else. What else do we want to talk about tonight? Stormy brought up Bitcoin. Did you want me to talk about what's going on in Bitcoin? Because I can do that. As a matter of fact, I can queue up some charts, and we can go look at some other stuff if you really want me to. Hold on for a second. Y'all still there? Somebody say something, so at least I know you're still there. All right, cool. You're still there. All right, so I'm going to throw let me get, while I do this, just bear with for a second. I'm going to pull open some charts on, actually I haven't even had a chance to look at the Ethereum weekly chart at this point. I would actually like to do that. Oh, that looks pretty good. All right, that looks really good. I like that. Let's make that bigger. Hold on for just a second, guys. I'm going to make this cool. So I can actually change the I can change the scene. There it is. And we can transition to that. You guys should be seeing my desktop at this point. Is that correct? You good? Because, okay, so this is the beautiful chart. It is, isn't it? Look at that. It's we've got this is a weekly chart of ETH, of Ethereum. We got a big 4-week downtrend here. This massive bullet. This is what we call an engulfing bar. Yeah, we love charts. Hey DC, how are you? And the audio is good. Okay, cool. Interesting. All right, so it must be my settings within the scenes are all screwed up. Okay, that's good to know. Okay, thank you, because I can change that. All right, so love this bar right here. It's not as good as the same bar from Bitcoin. If you look at the Bitcoin chart, the close on this bar is actually above the high from this bar, which is huge. All right, so, but I like this. It's not quite a 2-bar reversal. I wish the hell that overlay would go away because it's really annoying. Okay, because it's following my mouse around, and now I can't, it's hard to show you what I'm talking about without pointing my finger at it. But look at the big down, what you want to see in a chart like this. This is your big This is your, well, actually, no, that's not the case. This is now a 6-week downtrend because we didn't get a reversal here. This down bar here is actually part of the downtrend, even though there's a green bar here. So we have this downtrend since there was no reversal. Now we had a close last week above the high of this bar. So this is technically a reversal bar. And so classic 1-bar reversal. Now this week we've already exceeded last week's high. So we're off to the races. So Ethereum is looking like it's ready to make an attempt on 286, and then after that, obviously somewhere around 318. But to me, it really looks like it's on its way back to above 400. So this looks really good. And then but again, it's one of those things where if you really want to know what's happening, take a look at the monthly chart. We get this big, huge move here, which is insane, right? I mean, this is just ridiculous. But look at the opportunity here. Within the month, you had the low was 198.99, and what was the close? The close was 279. After all of this, dude, after this huge tail here, this huge spike here, there was no reversal signal given. All you need to do is get a close in August of above 286 in Ethereum, and it goes ballistic. How do you buy these things? I'm not going to go back since we're dealing with what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the video capture device back to property capture device. There. No, on this scene. This is the scene we're looking at, right? All right. So how do you buy? Yeah, you almost bailed on it. Yeah, so did I. You don't never sell bottoms. Don't sell bottom. Don't buy tops and sell bottoms. It's just it's exactly the way to lose money. Hard to say. Don't look at volume here. This is volume this is volume on Bitfinex. We could look at it from a different exchange. And I'll bet you also that investing.com doesn't have accurate when you see nothing here, this is telling you that you've got they just don't have the data. Okay? Never buy tops and sell bottoms. Your goal is to buy bottoms and sell tops. Okay? So stick with me and I will help you I'll help you figure out when we've got bottoms and tops. And the best thing to do is to Warren Buffett is an asshole, right? And I don't like Warren Buffett worth a shit. But I'm going to tell you one thing. He's very right about a lot of things. Okay? The most important thing to remember, and if I cut back is the audio going to suck? Let's see. So, does the audio suck now? Because if it does, and then I know it's just a matter of and it's a matter of that. Let me see if I can do. If I do that, is the audio better? Is it better now? Yep, kill the quality. Okay, so it's the scene is the problem. All right. So if I do that, that's that one. And then this is the video capture device here. How about this? All right, so cool. And you can see my face, correct? Awesome. All right, so okay, so James asked the important question of how do you buy? You can use an exchange like Coinbase, which you can set up an account, set up the two-factor authentication and all that stuff, and then turn around after that, and then you can fund it directly from your bank account through a credit card or whatever. The limits, the amount of money you can put in, it all depends on what it all depends on how long you've been with them, how much information you want to give them. But you can buy Ether that way from like Coinbase.com. I've used Coinbase now to buy all my Ether, and then if I want to move stuff off of it, I do. And I haven't tried Coindex. You know, it's the exchange I've used so far is that. Okay. And so, yeah, I don't actually want to watch me stream out of phase. That's really weird. So, but you can buy that way. Ether's not terribly, the fees aren't terribly expensive. You can buy Bitcoin, Ether, and Litecoin from there, from Coinbase, and then from there, once you've got the account, then you can move it onto your Trezor, onto your hardware wallet, and then from there you can move it wherever to whatever exchange you want. So once you've converted dollars into cryptos, moving cryptos from one exchange to another is a matter of just sending the request on the blockchain. You know, and I have a blog out this morning. I actually also got cross-posted over investing.com, which was nice. Talking about spoofing and some of the hinky shit that goes on the exchanges, and that we're starting to see spoofing and, you know, this kind of fraudulent non-trading crap that goes on in the exchanges now, on the NYSE and on the NASDAQ and on ICE and, you know, the COMEX and all this shit. And we're starting to see that stuff showing up on like Bitfinex and a couple of the other crypto exchanges, because there's no skin in the game in terms of yeah, I know, Bitcoin 3,400. Can you buy over the phone? I don't think so. You can't, because it's a purely digital transaction that has to be handled over the blockchain. So I'm almost positive you can't buy. I mean, does Coinbase have like a phone interface? Probably. But not like you can't call up a broker and say, hey, buy me 3 Ether at, you know, you can't call up a broker and do it. But I'm sure that you can, you know, you can run the website off your phone. That you can do. It's like, how old am I that I'm thinking you actually want to use a fucking phone broker? What the fuck's wrong with me? You know, I don't know if you guys have ever tried to move stocks from like one account, to the other, from like one brokerage to another, from like Scottrade to Options House, or from Options House to Charles Schwab, or from Charles Schwab to Fidelity. It's incredibly hard. You know, it's incredibly hard to do so. It takes days. You've got to fill forms out. You've got to get them notarized. You've got to have them sent from one exchange to the other. Then the transfers has to happen. They've all got to go through DTCC. It can take up to 2 weeks. It's a fucking pain in the ass. You want to move your Ether from Coinbase to OpenLedger? Send a blockchain transaction. This account to that account. Done. It'll clear in 3 to 5 minutes. It fundamentally changes the mobility of capital. It fundamentally changes everything about how we operate, how we're used to operating in stocks. Everything about buying and selling stocks, bonds, any kind of securities in the current government-run model, in the fiat currency world, is a pain in the ass. It's awful. It's designed to steal your money. It's designed to lock you in. There are barriers to entry. There are barriers to exit. There's tax issues. There's this, there's that. There's all this crap that has nothing to do with the basic concepts of, is this a good company and should I buy it? So it's one of the issues. One of the things that's happening in the crypto space is that as these new coins, and Stormy, I'm going to get to your question about Cliff High in just a second. One of the things that you have to think about when you're looking at some of these new crypto coins that are coming out is that they're not currencies per se. They are, because they're valued in currency. They're valued in dollars. They're valued in this. What they are shares of stock in a new company that's performing a task. Ethereum is not. Ethereum, the tokens are a representation of the value on the blockchain, of the distributed applications that are being built on the Ethereum network and that are operating on the Ethereum network. Steemit is exactly Steem is the value of the transactions that are happening in the Steemit application and all of its attendant applications that are there to support the Steem community. right? Steamed and ChainBB and all of that other stuff. And so it's really fascinating to see how this is playing out. So when you're looking at like something like, you know, EOS or a Versatium or, you know, any of these other coins, what they're looking for, and that's not a recommendation of Versatium. It just popped into my head. No, I don't think so. I think there's plenty of room, and I'll get to that in a second. But what's important to understand is that these coins are now all performing very specific tasks within the new version of the internet that's going to be built, and the new commerce platform that's going to be built. Okay? And because of that, you're actually looking at this. You almost have to think of them like software companies building, you know, during the tech bubble, building, or not even during the tech bubble, but just, you know, the early tech companies building the new way we're going to interact with each other, right? And that's the key. If you don't think of them that way, and you start thinking of them, in some of them like stocks, like Bitcoin is just digital gold, right? Litecoin is just digital silver. Ethereum is like digital Microsoft or digital DOS. Okay? EOS is possibly digital Windows. You see what I'm getting at? So, all right. So when you start thinking about it that way, you can now start to think about these things as investments as opposed to only thinking about them as currencies. Okay? Because they're not necessarily currencies. Because you don't use them to buy things with. You still have to convert them back into something else that you can use to, you know, pay your gas bill or pay your electric bill or whatever. Yes, EOS is an ICO right now. The ICO is going on for a year. Okay, so let's go to all three of your questions in order. Stormy. Cliff High, 13,800 by February. Seriously, he's been talking about this for the last 3 months actually. Cliff first made that case for 13.8 on Bitcoin back in May, and $1,000 on Ethereum back in May. So I'm not telling you anything that most of the space doesn't already know. Okay, and then so I'm actually more leery of the $200 silver call by May than I am the 14,000 Bitcoin. Talking about EOS and ETH, and then I'm going to get back to the Bitcoin call because it gets back into what I think is the catalyst for all this. Interesting. We were talking geopolitics, we were at 14 people. We're talking cryptocurrencies, we're down to 9. That's fascinating. Okay, so EOS I think there's plenty of room for both. I do. I think there's going to be more than 2. I think there's going to be 6 or 7 different applications. I think there's going to be all sorts of different applications platforms that are out there. And I think that's absolutely necessary. Yeah, I mean, I could too. I'm going to have to get off in about 20 minutes though, because I've got other stuff I need to get done before I go to bed tonight. I've also been up since 4 o'clock. I did get a nap this afternoon, but I woke up at 4 and I've been working all day. So, and then I hit the wall right around 3 o'clock, and I'm like, and I took a nap for about an hour. So I think there's going to be plenty of room for more than one of these application platform tokens to be competing against each other. I don't think the market is saturated with them yet. I don't think we're anywhere close to that. I think with the number of transactions that need to be cleared and the amount of stuff that needs to go through these networks, I think we could see 20 or 30 of them out there. And then kind of splitting off, and then, and we finding out, what those blockchains are really good at is going to determine what portions of the division of labor, what tasks they're going to be best suited for. Ethereum is going to have its I agree. I agree with you. Now the question is going to be whether or not they can figure out how to evolve the Ethereum blockchain to deal with it. Stormy linked or resteamed an article. By the way, I followed you on Steam yesterday. Stormy, you need to leave me comments on my articles so I can give you upvotes. Right, there won't be any fee on EOS, which is great. But if you're on Steam and you're not leaving comments, you're doing it wrong. I can't give you upvotes on your comments. So I can't delegate some of my Steam power to you, which is significantly more than yours, so that I can throw you, a nickel, 7 cents, or whatever the hell my vote's worth, but it's worth more than what you're going to get out of just resteaming stuff. The curation rewards really don't start to take over until you're, even at my level, right? I'm at like 412 Steam power. It's still not enough to get significant income off of curation. It's not there. I get 0.01, 0.02, something like that, but nothing huge. Okay, enough to make a couple of Steam a week on it, but nothing, or half a Steam to a Steam a week on it, but nothing. Nothing great. Now you get up to 2,000 or so, and now it's a different. You get up to 2,000 Steam power, and now it's a different story. And so here's my. But I absolutely agree that EOS from the ground up will be built to handle far higher transaction volumes. Will not be hampered in that way. I think BitShares and Steam are brilliant platforms. I think BitShares is unbelievable, and OpenLedger is absolutely going. I think OpenLedger, with its incredibly cheap fee system, is going to continue to grab more volume over time, and will become an exchange that is not subject to spoofing and all the other shit because of the fact that you have to have fees. I mean, the thing about in my article this morning, it's not that terribly thin now. Actually, I've been looking at it. Recently. It all depends on what you want to buy. It also depends on what you want to trade. Right? There's reasonable volume on some of the pairs on OpenLedger. Can you buy EOS in the U.S.? You cannot participate in the RCO. Oh, okay, yeah. I'm talking about today. It's pretty good. Some things are terrible, but yeah. You can't buy EOS if you're a U.S. citizen. You can't be a partake of the ICO, but you can buy it off of exchanges like Bitfinex and Kraken. Okay. Now here's the other thing I'm gonna mention. I don't think you should buy EOS yet. I think you should wait. I don't see any catalyst for the EOS price in the short term. Why would you buy EOS now at $1.80 or $1.75 or something like that, when the price is probably going to continue? Wait for Ethereum to get back to 400 or 500. I don't think EOS is going to go to $4 or $2.50. You see what I mean? I think it's going to languish between $1.80 and $2 for most of the ICO, to be honest with you. So you're going to be able to, I'm not saying don't buy none. I'm saying don't buy your full position or anything along those lines. I think it's going to be rolled out. Supply is going to continue to expand as they roll out the ICO. And you're going to be able to buy, a significant amount of EOS for while your Ether appreciates, or your Litecoins appreciate, or your Bitcoins appreciate. And that's what I think you should be doing. Yep. On a credit card, the minimum amount's probably not very much at all. It's actually, the bigger problem is maximums. The maximum amount you'll be allowed to buy. So now thinking about 13,800 Bitcoin by February, if you put together, here's the gig. If you take Cliff High, and you take Martin Armstrong, and you take just what your eyes are telling you about what's happening in the European Union, and you look at a chart of the euro, and let me go grab, so let's go grab, I'm going to put up the chart of the euro versus the dollar, and I'm going to put up the big monthly chart. No, it's the monthly chart or the weekly chart. Yeah, it's the monthly chart. I can't do it for you because I don't have enough data here. But if I need to actually get you a private chart from one of my articles. I can't do it from here. I can do it from, hold on for a second. I can do it from one of my spreadsheets. Hold on. You'll like this. This is why I do what I do. Oh, by the way, you're going to get to see like my spreadsheets. So hold on for just a second. Can you see that? Can you see that Excel file? That Excel file right now? Don't worry, I'll make it bigger. Make the chart bigger. So you can make stock charts in Excel, by the way. So I'm not a huge fan of trend channel analysis. This is a big monthly chart of the euro, or quarterly chart of the euro. This is the quarterly chart, right? Okay. So when you look at the quarterly chart of the euro, and I got to make this actually function. Okay, hold on a second. Because I changed the aspect ratio of the chart. Now I got to move the lines around. That one. Paste. That's how you make parallel lines in Excel, by the way. You just highlight a line, you draw a line, highlight a line, copy it, and then move it. Okay, so this is your trend channel. If you look at this channel really closely, you'll see what I'm seeing, which is that over the course of the next couple of quarters, you're probably going to project out to around $1.28 as the high on the euro. I can talk about Bitcoin Cash in just a minute, Emma. I'd be happy to. But I want to just show you what I'm talking about here about the euro to finish this point. So you're probably projecting out here to about $1.28 or so as the high on the euro. And there was even a note from Morgan Stanley today that they're looking at, and they're looking at the same chart I am to make that call, that it's about $1.28 to the upside. And if that's the case, at $1.28, that will crash the friggin' European Union almost completely. Okay. So that's going back to July 2009. So not really. I think the euro goes back way before that. So no, I mean, because that goes back to the top of the euro around $1.60 in 07, 08. So, but when that happens, that's a euro rally that puts the whole market completely offside because the eurozone can't support the euro at $1.30. That's what's going to precipitate the sovereign debt crisis in Europe. And what's precipitating this big move in the dollar down and the euro up is the relative strength of the European Union political system versus that of Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump's weakness as a leader right now, his perceived weakness, along with Angela Merkel's relative strength, which the whole deep state globalist apparatus has been building up since Trump got elected. But what that's doing is it's pushing the markets against their will. They don't want the euro at $1.30. But markets are bigger than manipulators. They're bigger than the control freaks. They're bigger than the central banks. This is what's going to destroy them. Their plan has been to talk Trump down and talk Merkel up. Well, that means that the euro has to rally and the dollar has to fail, which plays into Trump's corner because that gives him that's going to give him a stronger export economy. It's going to reverse a lot of the trends that we're seeing in corporate profits that have been under pressure from a stronger dollar since the taper tantrum that started in 2013. You're looking at the situation right now that's what's going to cause the collapse of the European sovereign debt market, which is going to make two things happen. One, capital's going to flee out of Europe like it's on fucking fire, and it's going to run to the U.S. Bond yields in the U.S. are going to drop like a rock. The stock market's going to go to 30,000 or higher. The dollar's going to rally like we haven't seen in 20 years. Briefly, 18 months or so. The euro is going to drop from $1.30 to 70 cents over the course of 18 months. Money will flow into Russia, will flow into China, and it will absolutely flow into cryptos. All of that chaos, what I'm seeing right now is what I'm seeing right now on the exchanges. If you watch Bitcoin, you watch where the exchange, where things are coming from. There's a tremendous amount of volume coming out of Europe. Maggie mentioned it on our scope last week that everybody she knows is buying friggin' Bitcoin. They're all flying out of the euro. So this is where Cliff High is right, and he's saying that liquidity is drying up. And so they're having to continue to pump liquidity into the system. That's where liquidity is drying up because the capital is leaving. And it's this groundswell that's going to fuel, and then that's going to fuel the investment into the next evolution of the blockchain. I think they have to either impeach. This is why Halsey and I are convinced that they have to impeach Trump in the next 30 to 60 days, or they're done. Then you're into the primary season. Think about how all this plays out, guys. I'm giving this shit away for free for 12 fucking people. This is the most valuable shit you will get on YouTube tonight. Drives me nuts. Fucking Adam's going to blow the smoke up. They're going to blow smoke up 2,000 people's asses for nothing. So it is realistic. If there's a sovereign debt crisis in Europe, what Cliff High is telling you is that the sovereign debt crisis is going to happen. It's the same thing that Martin Armstrong's timing models are telling you. It's the same thing that this quarterly chart of the euro is telling you. There's $10 trillion worth of foreign-owned corporate debt denominated in dollars. That all goes up in price by a factor of 30% in less than a year. It got a massive. It's crazy. You're a guy. You guys are welcome. I'm happy to give it to you. Shameless plug. Back my Patreon. I am actually about halfway. Actually, this weekend, guys, I got about half of the inaugural issue of Gold, Goats, and Guns newsletter done. I'm really happy. Yeah. He's absolutely... Well, Adam's a neocon. He just refuses to admit it. Dude, seriously, Adam's a neocon. When he told me, John Bolton's not really a neocon, well, he wouldn't describe himself as one. Well, no fucking shit, he wouldn't describe himself as one. I got news for you. Neither would Bill Kristol, the chief neocon. You fucking break. Oh, okay, you're JJ. Okay, awesome. Thank you. I needed to. I'm like, I should know who you are. Thank you. Okay, because I'll know you by your fucking Periscope names. All right, so I hate to toot my own. This all came to me. I was watching Cliff High over the weekend, and that interview connected so many dots. I had all these dots in my head, but I've been working so hard, been writing so much shit, that I hadn't really had a chance to just take a step back and go, what does all this fucking mean? I need to sit down and chat with my geopolitics homies and work out theories and do all the shit I used to do when I worked for Newsmax, and I only technically worked part-time. I only wrote part-time. I worked my ass off every day, but I had so much time to really think ahead as to what's happening as opposed to just reacting to shit. And so the situation I'm in now is really difficult because I can't see clearly, and I don't have a lot of time to see clearly. So his public interviews are pretty good, and to be honest with you, I have bought a couple of his reports. Those reports are not bad. They're certainly worth the money. Well, at least a couple of them have been. But just watch his interviews. He loves to talk about his stuff so much that he always gives shit away that he knows he needs to keep behind the paywall, to be honest. He really didn't want to give out the $200 silver by February thing, but he couldn't help himself. because it's just he's so enthusiastic about the whole thing. And to be honest with you, he's making so much money in cryptos, he doesn't give a shit about how much money he gets for his reports. Give me a freaking break. That guy is if that guy is not a multimillionaire from his crypto holdings and his crypto calls alone, I would be shocked to no end. And so I'm sure that he's at that point now where he doesn't give a shit, which is cool, to be honest. I don't know that the silver prediction is overblown. It's purely dependent upon the technology, right? I don't know if you didn't watch the interview or not. He was talking about that there's silver technologies that are coming out that would completely change the way we think of silver, and that there are silver cryptos coming, not silver-backed cryptos like a vaulted, okay, so you watched it. I have to tell the other 13 people now that his argument is that why a $200 silver call makes sense is the following: that there's new technology coming in silver that will radically alter the demand curve for silver because of the need for higher order data transmission than even fiber optics. That silver has unique properties that are going to allow it to carry even more information than fiber does. If that's the case, that plus the fact that there are a couple of silver cryptos apparently in the works that are designed to coordinate the flow of silver, not a store of silver, not like, silver in a fucking vault somewhere, not, but the actual order flow of silver, moving it from one place to the other, the supply chain of silver. That if that's the case, that creates a complete end run around the COMEX LBMA suppression system, paper silver system. And if that's the case, then silver gets completely fucking unleashed and goes ballistic. Now, I'm not going to vouch for a $200 silver call by February, but honestly, anything above $35 would validate that call. Okay? Anything above $35 would validate that call. But I also think that we may still see a complete collapse in the precious metals markets before all of this happens. Yeah, I know. But it's something about there being it being a multi-frequency carrier that's better than fiber. Watch the interview. He didn't want to go into huge details on it because it was obviously the thing that he was, trying to keep behind the paywall. And good on him for it. I mean, he's got a business, good for him. I mean, I don't begrudge him that at all. I don't know. Just take a gander at that stuff, guys. I'm a chemist. I don't doubt it, but I mean, I'm a physical chemist too. I did a lot of years. I did a lot of years in high energy physics. In my undergraduate work, and so I understand obliquely the quantum mechanics and all of that. But and how to move light, and I get it. But this stuff is beyond me. So, but it's just way out of date as well. So, all right, what are we looking at? 9:30. That's probably a good stopping point. So, the first we're going to target the end of the month is what we're looking at right now. I got my partner's working on the layout, picking fonts and line and layouts and whatnot. I'm working on the content. A lot of the content that I've written so far is really just introductory stuff. It's going to be $12 a month. Okay, not expensive. And it will, and for anybody who's already at the $4 a month level, obviously moving up to the $12 a month level, will be that. I am also, once we move to the new blog, I'm going to You'll be able to sign up through Patreon. Okay, so I have a Patreon set up currently with 2 levels. Just $1 for the nominal. Hey, give me $1 a month, and then there's the $4 level. I will, and I almost thank you for reminding me. I will comment on it. I don't have a lot to say, but I'll comment in just a second. But let's finish up. I've got a $4 a month level as well, which has a private blog, and I'm going to set up a private Discord channel for those subscribers to chat amongst themselves, for me to drop in every once in a while. We can have private chats that way. And then there will be the $12 a month level, which will be for the subscribers. I want to not only get a first issue together, which is really an introductory issue, to explain the portfolio mechanism, all of that, just all of that stuff, and as a good marketing tool, because I've got people that I want to distribute it to as well, and their private mailing lists. So I'm going to try and get it off the ground and try and get as many subscribers off the ground as possible, so I can get my finances stabilized. It's not available for sign up. I do not want you to sign up for something that I'm not offering yet. So when the issue's available, you'll know. Go ahead and either sign up on Patreon for $1 right now, and then you're not going to. Patreon doesn't bill until the beginning of next month anyway. Okay, so you'll never get charged for something that you don't already have. And if you sign up this month and go forward, don't worry, you'll get And then the other thing you can do is you can sign up on the blog. I've got a mailing list on the blog, because everything will go out on the blog as well. It'll go on the mailing list that I'm trying to capture as many emails as possible now as well, so I have all my bases covered. And we'll do all of that stuff. But I'm going to be, it'll be a retail level investor newsletter that will cover geopolitics, cryptocurrencies, gold, silver, commodities, big trends. I'm going to want to do some prepper stuff as well, some how to run a hobby farm and whatnot. I also want to get a couple of special reports written between now and then, which kind of codifies all this stuff, which you guys can use to say, hey, I subscribe to Tom's service. It's really cool. Here's the stuff that he gave me for free. Go that forth and don't be afraid to if you do sign up, share it with your friends, share it with your family. I don't care. The PDFs will not be password protected. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's what I'm hoping for, guys. I mean, I really do try and drive as much value as I possibly can. And I'm not asking for large price points, because I want to make it easy for you guys to say yes. I would rather. From my perspective, I want 1,000 people, at $4 a month, or some mixture of 4 to 12. I'd rather 1,000 people than trying to gouge people for $25 or $30 a pop and shit like that. Those numbers don't make any sense. If we do it right, we should be able to build a great blog that brings in 1,000 to 1,500 people a day, and we'll get conversions at a 0.1% rate, and that will build a beautiful business over the course of time. All right, now, Emma, you asked about Bitcoin Cash, and you've asked twice now, and if I don't answer your question, I will be really rude. And I don't like to be rude unless somebody is rude to me. I think what I love about what happened with the Bitcoin fork, let's stop and back up for a second and talk about how great it was that a bitter dispute between people that commanded almost $60 billion was ended amicably and without lawsuits. Amazing. Look, anarchy in action. It's brilliant what happens when you actually stop to think about what happened. Not a fucking lawyer was impaneled. Nobody got sued. The exchanges are all trying to do the right thing by people and everything else, and it's all been done. Now, what do I think about the long-term viability of Bitcoin Cash? I don't know. I really don't. Whether or not it's going to be it's going to be bullish or bearish from this point, I don't know. What I know is that there's tremendous. Yeah, it is almost like dividends for Bitcoin holders. Honestly, but the best way to describe it, I described it in a video I did for my subscribers, both for y'all at Patreon and for my subscribers over at Seeking Alpha, which is a much more expensive service, right? I have a much more expensive personalized service over at Seeking Alpha. And they're going to get all my best ideas first because they pay me more money. Then you guys will get my your guys are going to get it through 2 or 3 months in arrears. But it's mostly about the penny stocks. It's not really about the stuff that you guys care about here. Different products for different people. I think that I don't know whether it's going to be how I don't have any ideas on prices or whether it's overpriced or underpriced now. I have no idea. What I know is that over the course of time we'll find out if there's still a need for that kind of coin in this environment. There may be, and if there is, it'll find a price level and then trade relative to the rest of the market. What I would suggest you do at this point is okay. I didn't have any. I don't own any. I didn't own any Bitcoin. I have a small side business with a friend of mine, and we put everything in Ether. We didn't buy any Bitcoin. So I've been making strategic buys on like a weekly basis now. So what I would say is, I would say if you want to hold it, hold it. If I don't know. I haven't actually been watching the price in the last couple of days to see what's happened over the last week. I just loved what it meant to the market, and actually it's a really good article and blog post, I think, is to talk about just how important it was that this thing happened. There was a 3-year fight, and at the end of the day, they came up with an elegant solution where everybody got what they wanted. And, it doesn't matter if people's feelings got hurt because, well, everybody got what they wanted. So, good on everyone. Just shows you that this is probably there's a model for you that you can use to go forward to say, look, dispute resolution does not have to be ugly. It does not have to be this way. We choose to make it this way because we choose to believe in the fiction that is government. That sounds like a sign-off to me. You guys have a great night. You take care. And you keep your stick on the ice.